Hello and good evening, guys, and welcome to this session of CMA Foundation. And yes, this is CMA Foundation batch. I think this is not a batch, this is not a group of students. I think this is a group of warriors, and we are in a battlefield, and this battlefield is going to really start on 5th of September. So we are a group of battle warriors who are going to fight the CMA Foundation examination on 5th of September 2021. I welcome all of you to this live session of Law and Ethics. So I am in front of one of the most energetic batches which is there for CMA Foundation. And yes, guys, come what may, under any circumstance, we have to qualify CMA Foundation examination, which is scheduled on 5th of September. Let me give you a small reminder. This is the first stepping stone of your career. First stepping stone of your career. You have to take this stepping stone very, very profoundly. So when the airplane starts, when the airplane is on the airport and airplane starts, it has to exercise the maximum power to fly off in the air. This is the reason why during the start off of a particular airplane, of a particular journey, maximum propellers, engines are kept on. Maximum power is used when the plane is taking off. This juncture is the most critical juncture of your professional career. Why? Because you are taking off. While you are taking off, you need to exercise maximum power. Once you take off, once you take this first step of clearing CMA Foundation in the very first attempt, then your journey will be smooth for CMA Inter and CMA Final. So yes, I welcome all of you once again to this amazing session of CMA Foundation. Law and Ethics is the topic which we are going to discuss today. So let's start this chapter, this act known as SOGA or Sales of Goods Act. Now before I start this act, let me tell you a very interesting fact about this act. This act before 1930 was actually not an independent act. This act was a part of another act. Now those students who might, all of you must have already read through the summary which I had given yesterday, and the video classes wherever you are taking coaching from, you must have already read it. Please tell me from which act does this Sales of Goods Act is extracted? Type it on the chat box. Type it on the chat box. From which act was this act derived? Type it in the chat box. Alright, Ketan has used a shortcut Indian ICA, Annamalai ICA. Alright, Prashant, Akanksha, Ritesh, Ayushi, Pooja Kumari, Rani Singh, Binoy, Aditya Khetan, everyone is saying Indian Contract Act. So yes, all of you know that this act was earlier a part of Indian Contract Act, and it has been extracted from the Indian Contract Act. Now, I would like to ask you, what is the reason why this act, why these provisions were extracted from the Indian Contract Act? Yes, we know that it was forming a part of Indian Contract Act, but what are the reasons why it was extracted from Indian Contract Act? That is my next question to all of you. And yes, for answering this question, you can unmute yourself one by one and you can tell me the answer, or you can write in the chat box. I am reading the chat also simultaneously. Yes, I need answers. So, business difficulty, religion disparity, because only deals in goods, Prachi Tiwari. All right. Because totally based on goods, Abhishek, Ayushi, to resolve dispute between buyer and seller. Business difficulties, religion disparities. Okay, religion disparities. I don't know how religion disparity is relevant, but okay. What is the reason? What is the reason why this act was made a different act? Because it was totally based on goods. Business Counter Act. Okay, because there is need of separate act which is based on only goods. All right, Megha Tomar is very, very close. Amazing answer. Ravi Thakur says Business Counter Act. Neeraj says because it's totally based on goods. Any other answer? Any other answer? Some different study on movable goods, because it only deals with goods and satisfy buyers and seller, right? It deals only in goods. Aditya Khetan says, all right, Aditya, good. So guys, the correct answer is that this particular subject, sales of goods, is such a huge subject, is such an important subject that mixing it with some other act was not giving justice to this particular provision, to this particular act. It was not giving justice. You were just mixing this particular act with another act, which is the Indian Contract Act. It was not giving justice to this important subject, which is Sales of Goods Act, and the Parliament decided, and the Parliament thought it evident, thought it prudent to separate this act, because this act in itself was a full-fledged subject matter. It could not have been intermingled. It could not have been one of the matters of Contract Act. It had to be very, very separate. It had to be analyzed in greater detail. It had to be kept separate out of Indian Contract Act, and that is the reason why Sales of Goods Act formed a separate act. Its importance is highlighted by this fact that it was not kept as a part of Indian Contract Act. This is the importance of this particular chapter. And of course, any economy of the world, any economy, be it United States of America, be it Singapore, be it Australia, be it any place, transactions place at large, and it was not possible. Okay, there was an interesting answer. It was not possible to come up with ICA. Anshul Yadav, amazing Anshul Yadav, good answer by Anshul Yadav. So yes, the reason is that this subject was so important. Any economy of the world depends on sales and purchases of goods and services. Since that is the platform on which any economy is based, therefore, the act was introduced as a separate act. And this is the reason why act was separately extracted from the Indian Contract Act to make it a separate act. So, Sales of Goods Act holds such an importance in our lives. Alright, so the first thing which we are going to discuss is what kind of goods are covered under the Sales of Goods Act. What are the goods? What are the goods which are covered? And yes, we are going to come on to the exclusions also at a later point in time. What are the exclusions from goods? But first of all, we are going to study what kind of goods are a part of Sales of Goods Act. Now, there are three primary kind of goods which form part of Sales of Goods Act. Number one, existing goods. Number two, future goods. Number three, contingent goods. Now, I'll talk about, first of all, I'll talk about existing goods. What are existing goods? Existing goods are those goods which are present at the time of making the contract. So yes, you can see that these are the goods which are present at the time of making the contract. Those are known as existing goods. So suppose you come to me and you tell me, sir, I need coaching for law and ethics. Where are your videos? I show you my videos in the Google Drive and I tell you, here are my videos. So I am selling you existing good, the good which is already recorded, the good which is in my hand, and I am offering you that good and you will pay me money. That is known as existing goods. Goods which are identified, goods which are there, goods which are present at the time when sale is made, those are known as existing goods. Second kind of goods are future goods. Suppose today I commit to you that okay, my law and ethics recording are not available, but within next 15 days I will complete my recording of law and ethics and you can take law and ethics recording. You pay me fees in advance. I will pay you. I will I will provide you the classes on a piecemeal basis. Every week for 10 hours classes I will upload on Google Drive. These are known as future goods, goods which are not present at the time of making of the contract. When the contract is happening, when the sale is happening, future goods are not in existence. They are known as future goods. Last but not at all the least, contingent goods. Contingent good means goods which again are similar to future goods but with a one variation. Future goods are reasonably certain to be made. Future goods will be made. They are reasonably certain to be made. But contingent goods depend upon some future event which is uncertain. So I'll give you an example. You come to me, sir, we want to buy your law and ethics videos. I say no, they are not recorded, but I will record them in future. You tell me, okay sir, you please record them in future. We will take it in future. You please take the money and we will take them in future. But eventually I tell you that look, I have applied for US visa. If I get US visa, if I get residency, permanent residency of US, then I will be flying to US. So if my visa is accepted by the US authorities, I will not provide you the video recordings because I will be flying to US. But if my visa will not be accepted by the authorities, then I will be providing you the classes. Then what will you tell me? You will tell me, sir, till when should we wait? I will tell you, wait for 1 week. In 1 week, my visa results will be in front of us. In 1 week, I will tell you whether I will be able to provide you the classes or not. So contingent goods means goods whose manufacture is depend on a future uncertain event. We don't know whether I'll be getting the visa or not. 50-50 chances are there. We don't know. So future uncertain event, if the goods manufacturing is dependent on a future uncertain event, then that good is known as contingent good. Contingent means dependency. Like as of now, you are students, you are dependent on your parents for your financial need. So you are dependent. So contingency means dependency. So if the goods, manufacture of a goods are dependent on a future uncertain event, then those goods are known as contingent goods. See, that is the difference between future goods and contingent good. Future goods are not dependent. They will be bound to be made. I will make those goods for sure. But contingent goods are dependent on some future event which is uncertain, which might or might not happen. And therefore, the word is arrived as contingent goods. Contingent goods depends on some future uncertainty. So yes, Nazim is absolutely right. Nazim Sefi is absolutely right. Future goods plus uncertain condition is equal to contingent goods. So if we convert it into an equation is future goods plus uncertain condition is equal to contingent goods. Absolutely beautifully answered by Nazim Sefi. All right, let's move on. So these are the primary types of goods. Then we come on to subparts of existing goods. Now the existing goods are of 3 types. Existing goods are of 3 types: specific goods, ascertained goods, and unascertained goods. So these goods are specific goods, ascertained goods, and unascertained goods. All of them are part of existing goods. Now sir, we are now, our head is spinning, sir. We are now really confused. First you said 3 parts of goods. Then you are saying existing goods has got further 3 parts. Yes guys, that is what I am saying. Existing goods have further 3 parts. What are the 3 parts of existing goods? So existing goods can be specific goods. What are specific goods? Specific goods are goods which are identified before the sale is made. For example, you go to a shop and you ask the shopkeeper, do you have Lux soap? Shopkeeper says, yes, I have Lux soap. So you ask shopkeeper, what variant of soap do you have? So shopkeeper tells you, I have rose, I have haldi, I have any other type, honey, I have almond, I have these type of Lux soap. So you ask the shopkeeper to show you all the varieties. He shows you all the varieties and you pick the rose version and then you say, I want to buy it. This is an example of specific good. Good which is specified by the person who is taking the good before making the contract. Before the contract of sale is made, before the agreement is made between the shopkeeper and you, you have decided, you have pinpointed that I want this good only. That is known as the specific existing good. Example number 2, ascertained goods. Ascertained goods means goods where the choice is made by you after the sale is made. I'll give you an example. Okay, example is you ask the shopkeeper, do you have Lux soap? He says, yes, I have Lux soap. You tell the shopkeeper, what is the price of that Lux soap? Shopkeeper tells you it is 12 rupees. You pay 12 rupees and you ask him to give it to you. Now shopkeeper is asking you, okay, I have 4 variants of Lux soap: Lux rose, Lux honey, Lux almond, Lux this, Lux that. You choose whichever you want and you pick up Lux rose, because you have seen Shah Rukh Khan in a bathtub with rose petals on his body, and the bathtub is filled with water and rose petals in it. And you have also seen Karishma Kapoor and Kareena Kapoor in that bathtub, having a bath in that rose soap. So you are fond of that rose soap, so you are taking rose soap. So when you ascertain the goods, after you made the sale of contract, you have already made the sales contract, you have already agreed with the shopkeeper that yes, I will buy Lux. But now which Lux would you buy? This was uncertain. So you have bought the Lux soap, which is rose soap, after the sales contract is made, not before the sales contract is made, but after the sales contract is made. You choose the Lux soap after the sales contract is made. That is known as ascertained goods, because they are ascertained after the sales contract is made. After the contract is made, after your dealing is finished, then you are ascertaining, okay, I need this one. And last but not at all the least, unascertained goods. Unascertained goods. It doesn't matter to you what kind of Lux soap is there, whether it's rose, whether it's honey, whether it's onion, whether it's garlic, whether it's glycerine, or whatever is there in that soap. You are not bothered about what kind of Lux soap is it. You just tell the shopkeeper that, shopkeeper, I want Lux soap. That's it. You don't tell anything else. And then shopkeeper, according to his own will, he picks up any of the soap and gives it to you. That is known as unascertained goods. Goods which are not ascertained by the purchaser of the good. The purchaser is not specifying what kind of good, which one good does he wants. He is just saying, I want Lux soap, that's it. Or even not Lux, you are saying, I want soap, I want bathing soap. You are not specifying whether you want Lux, whether you want Synthol, whether you want any other kind of soap. You are not specifying, you are just saying, I want bathing soap. So he will pick up whatever he likes, wherever his profit margin is high, he will pick up that soap and he will give it to you. That is known as unascertained goods. Goods which are not ascertained even after the contract is made, and the seller usually, based on the description which is given by the buyer, he gives the goods as per his willingness. That is the third kind of good, which is existing good, which is known as unascertained goods. Now sir, please tell us, why the hell are we studying all these confusing type of goods? Why do we need to know all these type of goods? What is the relevance of all these types of goods? So guys, the relevance of studying all these types of goods is that you need to know when the risks and rewards pertaining to a good is transferred from the buyer to the seller, from the seller to the buyer. You need to know at what point in time does the risk and reward of these goods are transferred from the seller to the buyer. You need to know this fact, and therefore you need to know what kind of goods are you selling. Because the moment risk and rewards are transferred from the seller to the buyer, at that point in time, the liability with respect to the loss of a particular good is also transferred from the seller to the buyer. Seller will transfer the goods. Seller will transfer the goods, and the responsibility and the liability will also be transferred. Once the liability is transferred, the responsibility is also transferred. Okay, so to ascertain the responsibility, the liability, the goods are to be categorized in one of these buckets which you are seeing on your screen. So these are type of goods which are existing. Now a test for yourself. Get ready for the test. All right, test. Your fingers should be on your keyboard. You should press the right answer as early as possible. A small test. No, this is not the actual test where you will be marked. This is not a marking test. This is just a casual question which I wanted to ask you, okay, based on your studying of the provisions which you have earlier studied, okay. So, existing goods are A, owned by the seller, B, possessed by the seller, C, controlled by the seller, D, both A and B, E, both A and C. You have to choose the correct answer out of the 5 given options in the chat box. A, B, C, D, E. Rohit A, Logopriya D, Annamalai A and B. No, A and B cannot be the answer. A, B, C, D, E. 5 answers, you have to choose one answer. A, D, 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 B, D, B, A, C, D, Diksha D, Binoy D, Sanjana D, Shruti D, Vikas D, Binoy D, Akanksha C, Binoy D, Madhus D, Rishabh A, Binoy D. Wow, many students are converting their answers into D after looking at the popular demand of the answers, okay. It's like Kaun Banega Karodpati. The person, all the people are following each other. So D, 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 B, A. Okay, Megha Tomar saying A. D, 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 D. There's no option called D, D, D. Pramukha, there's no option called D, D, D. Hriman says E. Okay, Hriman says E. Rohit says B, B, B is correct. What is B, B, B? All right. D. DS Gaming says A. What is A? Okay, Nitin says D. Damodaran B. A, B. Say option again, sir. Option is on your screen, guys. On your screen, the options are there. A, B, C, D. 4 options are there. You have to choose one correct option. Let me spill the beans now. The correct option is, the correct answer is D, both A and B. The correct answer is D, D for Delhi, both A and B. So existing goods, two qualifying conditions should be there. A, it should be owned by the seller. Secondly, it should also be possessed by the seller. So if the good is not in possession of the seller, then it is not an existing good. Existing good should have these two conditions. The two conditions are, it should be owned by the seller and it should be possessed by the seller. So the answer is A and B. Okay, next, and a very interesting one. Whether following categories are goods or not. So first of all, tell me, point number 1, is immovable goods or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? Point number 1, immovable goods, yes or no? DS Gaming says yes. DS Gaming, you have to improve your basics. Anna Malai is saying yes. Anna Malai, you have to improve your basics. Rest everyone is saying no. Perfect. I got it. This is Tayari Jeet Ki. You are all Tayar Jeet Ki. Tayari Jeet Ki is ready. All of you are saying no. I am really happy, really excited. This is known as truly Tayari Jeet Ki. When unanimously all the students are giving me right answers, this actually is known as Tayari Jeet Ki. So yes, correct answer. Point number 1 is immovable goods. Immovable goods is not a good. It is not a good. Okay, now let me move on. Okay, let me move on. Point number 2, actionable claim. Is it a good or not? Again, no. Anna Malai says yes. Anna Malai, improve your basics. No. Everyone is saying no. Actionable claim is not a good. Diksha says no. Akanksha says no. Rani says no. Aditya Khetan, Damodaran no. Aditya Khetan no. Arnab no. Gulshan Kumar no. Ritesh no. Shruti no. Pooja no. Everyone is saying no. Brilliant. Anna Malai has changed his answer. Brilliant, Anna Malai. Correct you are. Actionable claim is not a good. Now option number 3, money. Is money a good or not? Money. Is money a good? DS Gaming is still saying a yes. All right, DS Gaming has changed his stand. No. Okay, money is good or not? Question is, money is good or not? Okay, everyone is saying no. Perfect, guys. So these are the exclusions from definition of goods which I am teaching you. So money is definitely not good. Your answer is absolutely correct. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, ferry or boat? Ferry or boat, is it a good or not? Ferry or boat? I am at point number 4. Arey, but ferry is a movable good. How are you saying no? Everyone is saying no. How no? Ferry or boat is moving. It is moving on sea. When it is moving on sea, how are you saying no? Ferry or boat is no. Arey, everyone is saying no. Why? Stop. Thamba. Yes, Kunal Rajput is absolutely right. That as per the GST law, the actionable claims are goods. Yes, as per GST law, they are goods. Yes. But I'm talking about ferry or boat. Ferry or boat. Please tell me whether it is good or not. Ferry or boat. Everyone is saying no. Arey, give me reason also. Thamba. Give me reasons. Reasons why is ferry or boat a good or not? Ferry or boat is immovable. Is movable. It is moving on water. So guys, the logic is that ferry or boat is, although it is moving on water, but it cannot be put out of water. Jaswant Lohar says a big no. Okay, a big no. All right. So yes, it is not a good. Ferry or boat is not a good because ferry and boat cannot be pulled out of water. Therefore, ferry or boat is not a good again. Ferry or boat is not a good. Okay, perfect. Now, question number 5. Whether mango trees is good or not? Mango trees, mango. I love eating mangoes during summers. Do you love eating mangoes during summers? Is mango tree is goods or not? Incorrect answer. Yes and no. Both answers are incorrect. Both the answers are incorrect. Yes is incorrect. No is incorrect. Both answers are incorrect. Don't write yes or no. Both answers are incorrect. I am telling you both answers are incorrect. Ferry is immovable property. Yes, Nazim, ferry is immovable property. Nazim is absolutely right. वाटर से बाहर नहीं चक सकते, बिल्कुल ऋषभ, बिल्कुल सही बात. ऋषभ तुम रिकॉर्ड बना लेना, कौन कौन सा यूपी का बच्चा है इस पूरे के पूरे सेशन में, रिकॉर्ड बना के रख लेना अपने पास. बोट इज एन एसेट, यस. फेरी इज इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी, यस यस, एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली राइट. नाउ वी आर कमिंग ऑन टू मैंगो ट्रीज. प्लीज टेल मी वेदर मैंगो ट्रीज आर गुड्स और नॉट. मैंगो ट्रीज आर गुड्स और नॉट. आई एम गिविंग यू द आंसर. I am giving you the answer. Mango tree is yes and no, both are incorrect answers. Yes and no, both are incorrect answers in case of mango trees. No, 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 wrong answer, wrong answer. Yes and no, both are incorrect. Oh, Diksha Poddar. Yes, Diksha Poddar is the first girl to give the correct answer. Diksha Poddar. Very good, Diksha. Correct answer. Prateek Chintu. Second correct answer. Prateek Chintu. Anshul Yadav, third correct answer. Anshul Yadav. Neeraj Chaudhary, fourth correct answer. Neeraj Chaudhary. Deepa is incorrect. No, mango trees are not movable. So 4-5 answers are correct. 4-5 students are given the correct answers. Neeraj Chaudhary, perfect answer. Shruti, perfect answer. Vishakha, perfect answer. Yes, now you are getting to the right answer, guys. So let us check out the answers. So yes, immovable goods are not goods. Actionable claim are not goods. Money is not good. Ferry is not good, as it is considered as immovable property. Mango trees, if the gardens is sold as a whole, it is an immovable property. But if the trees or fruits are cut and sold, it will be a movable property. So this is very, very important. With respect to mango trees, you should understand the difference. If the mango trees are cut and sold, then they are movable property. If mango trees are rooted and the entire garden is sold, then they are not goods. So the answer to question number 5 is this. Now let me give you a tricky question. Okay, match the columns. You know, in our younger classes, junior classes, we used to match the columns. So 1 2 3 4 5, you have to match the columns. First of all, match the column of point number 1, specific goods. What is the corresponding number of column B? Which of the following are specific goods? Point number 1, which of the following are specific goods? Jaswant is wrong, Logapriya is wrong, Megha is wrong. Yes, Logapriya. Okay. Question number 1 is specific goods. What is the correct answer to specific goods? What is the correct answer to specific goods? Good, very good. Sayyid Hassan, wrong answer. Sayyid Hassan, wrong answer. Yes, rest other answers are absolutely correct. Okay, this is not the test, okay? I will give the test separately, okay? Don't consider it as test. Perfect. Right answer. Everyone is right. Tanmoy, Damodran, Ketan, Pooja, very right. Okay, next, point number 2. Ascertained goods. Please tell me what do you mean by ascertained goods? What are ascertained goods? Please tell me what are ascertained goods? Ascertained goods. What is the answer to ascertained goods? 1 2 3 4. 3 3 3. Megha Tomar, wrong answer. Megha Tomar, wrong answer. Megha. Arnab is right. Diksha is right. Tanmoy is right. Binoy is right. Herman is right. Prateek is right. Yes, the ascertained goods are the goods identified after the contract of sale. They are known as ascertained goods. Perfect. Now, unascertained goods. Point number 3. Unascertained goods. What are unascertained goods? Unascertained goods. I want to know what do you mean by unascertained goods. 1 2 3 4 5. What is the correct answer of unascertained goods? Yes, Megha Tomar, it's 3. For ascertained goods, it's 3. Now I'm talking about unascertained goods. Ketan is wrong, Rani is wrong, Shila is wrong. Perfect. Anna Malai is wrong. It is not 4th. Unascertained goods, what is the number? 1 1 1 1. Yes, 1 is the right answer. Absolutely right. 1 is the correct answer. All of you are giving the correct answer. 1 is the correct answer. Yes. Then, after unascertained goods, future goods. What are future goods? What do you mean by future goods? What are future goods? Point number 4. What are future goods? Please state the number in the answer. Ketan is right, Ram Udgar is right, Prachi is right, Dattatreya is right, Ravi is right, Kunal is right, Binoy is right, Tanmoy is right, Rakshit is right, Gulshan is right. Akanksha says 5 is 4, 4 is 5. Wow, Akanksha, brilliant answer. So fourth answer is 5, absolutely right. 5 is the correct answer. Future goods are goods to be manufactured in future. No apparent uncertainty. There is no uncertainty in the future goods. Now what are contingent goods? What are contingent goods? Point number 5. What is the answer to point number 5? What are contingent goods? Yes, Aditya is right, Rani is right, Dattatreya is right, Aman is right, Anil is right, Damodaran is right. Wow, Tayari Jeet Ki. This is known as Tayari Jeet Ki, which you have done really well. I guess you have studied law and ethics quite superbly, guys. Brilliant. So contingent good is yes. Point number 4 is referring to contingent goods. The contingent goods are the goods which are dependent on happening of a future uncertain event. This is the answer to contingent goods point. So this is the correct answer, and please all of you pat your backs because you have done really well. Pat your back and a heart to all of you. This is an amazing session. I am facing, you know, warriors. I'm getting this energy that all of you are actually set to rock on the CMA Foundation examination, which is going to be held on 5th of September, and I guess all of you are going to score above 90% marks for sure, guys. The kind of answers which you are giving is superb, is really amazing. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Yes, the next topic is a important topic. What are the essential elements of a contract of sale? So the essential elements of a contract of sale, there are certain prerequisites which are required for a contract of sale. What are those prerequisites? There should at least be two parties, seller and buyer. There should at least be two parties, seller and buyer should be there in a contract of sale. Then the subject matter of contract of sale should only be goods, and that too movable goods, not immovable goods. Movable goods are forming part of the contract for sale. So movable goods are part of contract of sale. Third, there should be transfer of property. Ownership rights from seller to buyer should go, and absolute ownership should go. There should not be conditional ownership. There should not be any condition to the ownership. Absolute unconditional ownership should go from the seller to the buyer. So the ownership should go. Guys, what do you mean by ownership? What are the two things which are included in ownership? What are the two things which are included in ownership? What do you mean by ownership? I want answers in the chat box. What do you think are the essential elements of ownership? How do you transfer ownership of a good to another person? Right and possession, risk and reward. Shruti, correct answer. Shruti Kumari Tarve. Brilliant answer, Shruti. Risks and rewards are to be transferred from seller to the buyer, and then we actually say in a sense that ownership has been transferred. Then the delivery can be immediate, can be in installments, or can be at a future date. Delivery is not a problem. Even price is not a problem. Even if price is not paid right now, it is paid at a later date. We don't mind. That's okay. Price can be paid at a later date. It means money consideration, not kind for sale of goods. So please tell me after reading this point whether barter is a sale or not. Whether barter is covered under SOGA or not. Yes or no. After reading this point, it means money consideration, not kind for sale of goods. Is barter included in SOGA? Answer is no. Barter is not included in SOGA. That is the restriction which SOGA has. Barter should not be considered as a part of SOGA because price is an essential element. So if you give goods for goods, it will not be included in SOGA. The next is a contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. The sale might have some conditions attached to it. That's perfectly okay. The contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. But remember, the ownership should not be conditional. Ownership should be absolute. Transfer of ownership is absolute. But yes, if there are certain conditions where which are governing the sale, that is okay. The contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. It may be depending on some conditions. So for example, I can infuse a condition that if you pay me money by 15th of August, only then this good will be transferred to you. Then that is a condition. That's perfectly okay. Sale has happened. Essential elements of a valid contract must be present in a contract of sale. So you have studied Contract Act also, which we'll be dealing in our subsequent lectures. the essential elements of a valid contract should also form a part of this particular SOGA, this particular Sales of Goods Act. That is also forming part of SOGA. All right. A very, very important. Okay, do you see this? June 2019, December 2019. An important question. Another important question, difference between sale and agreement to sell. This is again one of the most important topics and one of the favorite topics of examiners in the examination. This topic comes quite often. What is the difference between sale and agreement to sell? Okay, so sale means the actual act of transferring the property. However, agreeing to sale means a promise which is given by the seller to the buyer to transfer the good at a later stage. Sale means actual activity of transferring the property. Agreement to sell means just a promise, just a commitment that yes, I will sell this goods to you in a future date. But we all know commitments or promises are not of any worth unless and until they are actually executed. So I know in our real life we believe on each other's words a lot. Yes, you committed me this, you will provide me this. We believe in our whatever words we are saying for our commitment, we believe in that thing a lot. But as per law, the agreement to sale is not final unless and until sale actually happens. As per law, all the things which we'll be discussing in our further differentiation factors, they will indicate that law does not really recognize agreement to sell as a valid contract. It doesn't really recognize, it doesn't actually give the rights and powers to the buyer which he should have in sale. He's not got those powers in agreement to sell because it's just a vada, it's just a promise, and based on promise, promises can be broken also in future. So law doesn't recognize agreement to sale as a valid agreement by which the rights and responsibilities are transferred from the seller to buyer. So let's read the difference and then I will explain this point in greater detail. Property transfers from seller to buyer immediately. The property is transferred from the seller to buyer immediately in case of sale. However, the ownership of goods is transferred to buyer at some future date. This is just a commitment that we will transfer the goods to you at a future date. This is an executed contract. Executed means past. The execution has already done. This is an executory contract. Executory means it will happen in future. It is a commitment to enter into this particular contract in future. So this is an executory contract. It creates right in rem. It creates right in personam. One of the very important distinguishing factors of this particular differentiation between sale and agreement to sell. Now please understand this point very, very carefully. I will take at least 3 minutes to explain you this point because most of the students are not clear with this particular point. Are all the students clear with the first 2 points? Are all the students clear with the first 2 points? Write a yes in the chat box if you are clear with the first 2 points. Yes, 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 yes. Perfect, perfect. Almost all the students are clear with the first 2 points. All right. So let me get on to the third point and a very, very important point, guys. Sale creates right in rem. Agreement to sell creates right in personam. Rem means REM. Rem means world at large, the entire world. Rem means the world. Personam means the particular person with whom agreement to sell has happened. Rem means the world, the entire world at large, that is known as rem. Personam means the person with which the agreement has happened. Now let me tell you the differentiating factor between these two things with an example. All right. So I buy a house. When I buy a house, I become owner of that particular house. When I become owner of that particular house, now obviously I need a safety and security that house is my property now, and I want security around that house. Now tomorrow, if suppose a third party comes to me in that house and tells me that, oh no, this is not your house, this is my house, this is not your house, this is my house, I will be telling him, no, this is my house, I have the legal papers, I have the title deed to it, let us move to the court and we will settle over there whether it's your house or my house. So if a third party tomorrow comes to you and says that this is my house, you will have a legal recourse towards that third party that no, this is not your house, this is my house. in case of sale. So suppose I purchase a house from Mr. Khetan, Aditya Khetan, who's there in this particular session. I purchase a house from Aditya Khetan, and after purchasing that house, I tell Aditya, Aditya, this is my house now. You know, at the same time, Annamalai comes to me and Annamalai tells me, sir, this is my house. I will tell Annamalai, no, Annamalai, this is not your house, this is my house. Come on, let's go to the court and we will settle over there. So I have right against Aditya Khetan also. If Aditya Khetan comes to me and tells me, this house doesn't belong to you, I will sue Aditya Khetan. I will also sue Annamalai. I will also sue Pooja Kumari. I will also sue Madhu Kumar. I will also sue Ketan Khandelwal. I will also sue Pruthi. So in case of right in rem, I have right of suing the entire world whosoever claims that this house is not my house. I have right to sue all those people. But in case of agreement to sell, now I'll change the example, okay? Now I'll give you another example. Just hear this out properly, okay? In this example, I purchased a house from Mr. Khetan. Khetan is selling me a house, but Mr. Khetan tells me, okay sir, you can actually shift in that house, but I will give you the ownership. I will give you the ownership after 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks I have some work, and after 2 weeks I will sell you the sell you the good. Mr. Aditya Khetan is saying, yes, okay Mr. Aditya Khetan, where is your house? I am coming to the house. I am purchasing your house. Where is your house? Where do you live? Please tell me in the chat box, because you are saying a yes, I can purchase your house. So where should I come to purchase your house? Aditya is saying, sir, I need 2 weeks time to purchase the house. Okay, Bhilwara is the place where Aditya stays. Okay, I'm coming to Aditya's place and buying his house. But Aditya is saying that, sir, I will sell you the goods. I will sell you the house after 2 weeks. Then I tell Aditya, then Aditya, how will I stay in these 2 weeks? Aditya tells me, no worries sir, you come to my house, you stay in that house is empty. So you stay over there, you start staying over there. But this is a commitment to you, this is a promise to you that, sir, I will definitely sell this house to you after 2 weeks. So this is not a sale, this is agreement to sell. Now when I was staying at Aditya's place, when I was staying at Bhilwara at Aditya's house, which Aditya claimed that it was his house, Madhu Kumar came to me. Madhu Kumar told me, sir, this is my house. Why are you staying in my house? Get out of my house. Madhu Kumar is telling me. Now the question is, can I sue Madhu Kumar? Answer is no, I cannot sue Madhu Kumar. I will immediately call Aditya. I will ask Aditya, Aditya, you said that this house belonged to you. But no, this house is not yours. This is Madhu Kumar's house. So in case of agreement to sell, unless and until I am in possession of the property, I cannot sue Madhu Kumar. I cannot sue Prithvi. I cannot sue Ram Udgar. I cannot sue any other person. I don't have right to sue any person apart from Aditya Khetan. Aditya Khetan has promised me to sell the house. If anyone else come to me and claims that this is his house, I will sue Aditya Khetan. I will not sue any other person. So agreement to sell doesn't give you right to sue anyone in the world, because you never know whether that good has been promised to be sold to you, whether that good belongs to the seller or not. You never know that. Unless until sale happens, you never know that. Therefore, in case of sale, you have right to sue anyone in the world who's claiming that this is his house. But in case of agreement to sale, you have right to sue only one person, who is Aditya Khetan, who stays in Bhilwara, who has promised you to sell his house. This is the difference between agreement to sell, which gives you right in personam, individual person. You can sue individual person. You can only sue Aditya Khetan, who has committed that he will provide the house to you. You cannot sue anyone else. But in case of a sale, a proper sale, you can sue anyone in the world. You can sue anyone in the world. That is known as, it creates right in rem, and the agreement to sell creates right in personam. Personam means that person who has agreed to sell this house to you, you can only sue that person because that person might have taken advance from you. So Aditya has already taken 10 lakh rupees from me. Guys, Aditya Khetan has taken 10 lakh rupees from me. Aditya Khetan, now you either refund me my 10 lakh rupees or you give your Bhilwara house to me. Either of the two conditions should be satisfied. You had promised that you will sell the house to me. So Aditya will now return me 10 lakh rupees. So I have right against Aditya. I do not have right against anyone else who is claiming that house to be his house unless and until I purchase that house. So this is the difference between right in rem and right in personam. I hope you understood the difference between right in rem and right in personam. Next, the buyer is responsible in case of sale. Once sale happens, the buyer is responsible for any loss or destruction of goods, even if the goods are in possession of the seller. So any loss which has happened or any destruction of the goods, buyer is responsible in case of sale. But in case of agreement to sale, seller is responsible, because this is actually not a sale. This is just a promise to sale. So seller is responsible for any destruction. Now the seller cannot resale the goods. Now in case of sale, when the sale happens, then seller cannot resale the goods. But in case of agreement to sell, when there is only a promise, in case of only a promise, the seller has the right to resale the goods. In this case, if subsequent buyer takes in good faith and for consideration, he gets good title. The original buyer may only sue the seller for damages. Now in this case, the seller can resell the goods, can sell the goods to another person, because he has just promised to sell it to you. Now you know Aditya is a very Aditya Khetan, being a Marwadi, he is a very very lalchi kind of a person, very greedy kind of a person. After agreeing with me, he got another buyer who offered him 10 lakh more. Therefore he said, no sir, I am not going to sell this sell this house to you now. I will sell to another person, sir. I will not sell this house to you. So yes, this is possible in case of agreement to sell. The seller can resell the house or sell it to someone else and not sell it to you. As a buyer, you can just claim back the damages, you can just claim back the money which you have given, and you can do nothing else. But in case of sale, the seller cannot resell the goods. In case of sale, the sale has been done, seller cannot resell the goods, the good is yours, the house is yours. If goods are destroyed, loss will be borne by the buyer. If the goods are destroyed, loss will be borne by the seller. So I told you now that agreement to sell is actually not sale at all. So government will not give you the rights which are there in sale in case of agreement to sale. Next, if the buyer becomes insolvent before payment is made, the seller has to deliver the goods to the official receiver. So if buyer becomes insolvent or if the buyer dies, then the goods are to be sent to the buyer's legal heir or to the official receiver. It is not that seller will keep the goods to himself. But in case of agreement to sell, since sale has not happened, seller may refuse to deliver the goods to the official receiver. Seller will say, no, sale has not happened. When sale has not happened, I will not give you the goods. But in case of a sale, seller is bound to give goods to the official seller, official receiver, the person who is liquidating on behalf of the buyer. But in case of agreement to sell, the seller may refuse to deliver the goods. Seller may say that, no, I am not delivering the good to you. Seller may be adamant on that part. If the seller becomes insolvent after payment of price, the buyer can claim the goods from official receiver. Now, if seller becomes insolvent after payment of the price, then the buyer can claim goods from the official receiver. Now, if the goods are with the seller and seller becomes insolvent, then buyer has the right to claim the goods from the seller. But in case of agreement to sell, buyer cannot claim the goods from the seller because sale has not happened. When sale has not happened, buyer cannot claim the goods. Buyer will say, give me goods. Seller can say, no, I am not giving you the goods. Seller has the authority. He can only claim rateable dividend for the amount paid by him. So if buyer has paid some amount, he can recover the amount from the seller's official receiver, but he cannot claim the goods back. Seller can refuse to give the goods to the buyer in case of agreement to sell. So agreement to sell is actually not a sale, guys. It is just a promise, and promise can be broken anytime. And the result is that, okay, you might have to pay damages, but it is not that you have to mandatorily sell the goods. So if I tell Aditya, you had taken 10 lakh rupees for me, now sell this good to me only. Aditya will say, no, nothing doing, sir. I am Marwadi. I am very, very smart businessman. I know where is my profit, where is my loss. I will not sell the house to you. You take your 10 lakh rupees back. Then I will tell Aditya, along with 10 lakh rupees, you pay me additional fine of 1 lakh rupees. Aditya will say, okay, I will pay you fine of 1 lakh rupees, but I will not sell my house to you because I am getting 10 lakh rupees more as compared to what you are offering me. Aditya can refuse me anytime. So agreement to sell can be refused at any point of time by paying small damages. Agreement to sell can be cancelled. But in case of sale, it cannot be cancelled. Once sale has happened, then Aditya cannot refuse me to give his house in Bhilwara. So now, Aditya, you please start looking for a new house because now you have sold your goods to your home to me in Bhilwara. Okay, next, an agreement to sell becomes sale when the time elapses or the conditions are fulfilled subject to which property is transferred. So, agreement to sell becomes a sale when the time is elapsed, when the time is finished, or when the conditions which are required to be satisfied by both the parties are finished. The conditions may be, construction of that particular house, completion of the interiors of that house, or payment of money can be a condition. So if conditions are fulfilled, then agreement to sell automatically converts into sale. Now a very, very important principle, caveat emptor. A very, very important principle from an exam standpoint also and from your practical standpoint also. Caveat emptor, it is a golden principle of Sales of Goods Act, and whenever a good is sold, caveat emptor is a implied condition which is there in any contract of sale. Now what is caveat emptor? Okay, now I'll tell you what is caveat emptor. Caveat emptor means the buyer should be vigilant enough. I'll give you an example. A buyer wanted to purchase a horse. He went to a horse stable. He talked to the owner of the horse stable and he told the horse stable, I want a horse who is a good horse with powerful strength. I want the horse as my pet. The owner of the stable went to the stable and he showed all the horses to the buyer. Buyer picks up a horse number second, who was there in the second stable. Buyer picks up that particular horse. The horse had one eye defected. One eye was defected of that particular horse. But the buyer did not notice this defect of the horse. Buyer took the horse to his home, and after going to home, the buyer realized that one eye of the horse was defected. Whose liability should it be? Whose responsibility should it be? Buyer's responsibility or seller's responsibility? I want the answer in the chat box. Aditya Khetan is the first one to answer. All right. Yes. Buyer's responsibility. Absolutely, buyer. Oh, everyone is saying. Annamalai is also saying buyer. Wow, Annamalai. You are also saying the correct answer. Brilliant. Shruti, Arnav, Pratik. Everyone is saying buyer. Brilliant answer. Buyer is responsible. Absolutely, guys. Seems that I am exerting so much of Savdhan customer. Oh, just one. Brilliant. Savdhan customer. Yes. Jago, Grahak, Jago. Alright, absolutely correct, guys. Oh, Yogesh Kanodia is in a party. Yogesh, where are you? Yogesh Kanodia is in a party. No, Yogesh, we want to see your surroundings. It is surrounded by so much of light and so much of multiple colored lights. Buyer is responsible for checking before purchase. Rakshit is absolutely right and Ram Udgar is absolutely right. So, guys, it is buyer's responsibility to check the goods properly. The buyer cannot tomorrow say that goods were not correct only because of his irresponsibility. So see this picture. I bought this portion from a guy who said drinking it would make us rich. Drinking a particular chemical will make you rich. A person bought a particular portion. His sister says, and can we get the refund if it doesn't? Please tell me yes or no. Please tell me yes or no. What is the answer to her sister's question? Yes or no? Answer to the sister's question. Yes or no? Can we get the refund? Everyone is saying a no. Megha no. Gulshan no. Damodaran no. Shri no. Ayushi no. Rani no. Oh, amazing. Everyone is saying a no. Arnav is saying a no. Akanksha no. Aman Singh no. Brilliant, guys. Absolutely correct answer. No, you cannot take the refund back because it was your fault. Why did you believe in such a stupid proposition? Now I'll give you another example, guys. Another example. You went to a stable and this time you asked the owner of the stable that I want a fit horse. I want a horse who is fit in every respect. The stable owner did not show you any horses. It just gave you one of the horses and it just delivered the horses to your home. Now tell me, who is responsible if the horse's one eye is damaged? Is it the buyer or the seller? Is it the buyer or the seller? In the second case, is it the buyer or the seller? Tanmoy again says buyer. Okay, Arnav, seller. Ravi Thakur, seller. Binoy, seller. Pooja Kumari, Akanksha, Anshul, Vishakha, Aman, seller. Absolutely right, guys. This time you are absolutely right. This time it was not the buyer's fault because he had asked for a specific condition to be fulfilled, which was not fulfilled. So this time seller is responsible for this mischief. Okay, I suppose you two know that principle of cavate emptor also applies to marriage. So this is a joke which is very popular in legal world, guys, that even in case of marriage, you know, once you marry a person, marry a wrong person, there is no looking back. Okay, once you marry a wrong person, you have to marry him for the entire lifetime. So marriage is also there with cavate emptor relationship is there in marriage also. Once you enter into wrong marriage with a wrong person, then you have to nibhavify with that wrong person for the entire life. So cavate emptor is actually applicable in marriage also. So before marrying a particular guy or a girl, please make sure, please see the entire characteristics and nature and looks and everything, bank balance, everything properly, because once you get married, then cavate emptor is applicable to marriage also. So in other words, according to cavate emptor principle, buyer is responsible for checking before the purchase, before purchasing a particular good, buyer is responsible for checking. Now there are certain exceptions to this rule. The exceptions are where the buyer tells the seller a particular purpose for which the goods are required. If the purpose is stated and if the purpose is not met, then this is an exception to cavate emptor rule. So if in my case the buyer had already told that I want a fit horse, okay, fit horse means he has to be fit in all respects. Now even if in that situation I was given a horse with a bad eye, then that is a problem. That cavate emptor doesn't apply in this case. So when the buyer tells the seller about the particular purpose of a particular good, then cavate emptor principle doesn't apply. Then implied condition as to merchantability. Merchantability means that particular good should be capable of being sold and purchased in an open market. Matlab it should be devoid of any defect. It should not be so that that good belong to someone else and you are selling someone else's good. Okay, that should not be the case. So good should belong to the person who's selling it. Then wholesomeness. Wholesomeness is a characteristic of food. Whatever food items you are purchasing, those food items should be fit for human consumption. Now if the food item is stale or food poisoning happens after consuming that food item, then who is at fault? The hotelier or the consumer? If the food item is stale and food poisoning happens in case of food item, then who is at fault? Hotel or the consumer? Who will be at fault? Yes, hotel. Absolutely right. You guys are right. Hotel will be at fault. So in case of food items, the principle of cavate emptor is not applicable. Food should be absolutely perfect. The consumer can only eat the food and then only will he realize whether the food was good or not. When the seller commits fraud, if the seller sells the goods using fraudulent techniques, which means he either misrepresents the fact or he steals certain facts, he does not disclose certain facts, then a cavate emptor principle is not applicable. When there is a usage of trade, when there is a custom of using that particular thing in that way only, when there is a usage of trade, at that point in time the principle of cavate emptor does not apply. For example, if on Diwali I buy crackers and those crackers do not have the masala in it. Masala means the thing which will erupt. That masala is not there in the crackers. Okay, the dukandar will tell me that okay, you should have checked it before. No, I shouldn't have checked it before, because Diwali pataka means that it has to have masala in it. If it is devoid of masala, then how would it burst? So the usage of trade, the way in which that particular product is used, that usage of trade should be well recognized in that particular good. So usage of trade is a common practice which should be there in any good. It is given that it is obvious that this product would have these things, because this thing is obviously there in a particular product, that is usage of trade. So these are 5 situations where cavate emptor is not applicable, where the seller is liable. If any of these fault happens, then seller is liable and not the buyer. Now we come on to the specific principle of transfer of ownership. When will the transfer of ownership happens in case of specific goods? Now specific goods can be categorized as the goods which are in a deliverable state. I mean goods which are ready, which are absolutely in a deliverable state. When will the transfer in property transfer in property happen? The transfer in property will happen when the goods passes on the buyer when the contract is made. So soon as the contract is made, the transfer of property happens. Guys, what will happen when transfer of property happens? Risk and reward will be transferred. So if the goods is damaged, buyer's responsibility will be there. So in case of specific goods in deliverable state, if the contract happens, if the sales happen, even if the goods are kept at seller's place, then what will happen? The responsibility will be of the buyer. I'll give you an example, okay? You go to a shop and you buy, suppose a soap from a shop, okay? You buy a lot of soaps from a shop, okay? Then you tell the shopkeeper that, look shopkeeper, please give this please keep these goods till I come back to you. I will come back to you. Please give these goods to you. I will take the goods to you while I return back. In the meantime, when you come back, the goods are destroyed by fire. The soaps which you had purchased are destroyed by fire. Whose responsibility will be? Buyer's responsibility or seller's responsibility? Answer in the chat box. Answer in the chat box. Buyer responsibility or seller's responsibility? Absolutely right. Buyer's responsibility. Now, therefore, the seller would be eager to transfer its risk and rewards as early as possible. So, in case of goods which are in a deliverable state, which means they are absolutely ready, they are in a deliverable state, the ownership transfers immediately the ownership transfers. So, even if the soap destroys after you have left the shop, then it will not be seller's responsibility, it will be the buyer's responsibility. That is how the law is drafted in case of the goods which are in a deliverable state. Now next is the goods which are to be put in a deliverable state. The goods which are to be put in a deliverable state. So I'll give you an example. I come to your mango garden and I ask you, please pluck these mangoes and give it to me. The garden owner tells me, okay, I will give it to you for 80 rupees per kg. I tell them, okay, I will buy it for 80 rupees per kg. You pluck all the mangoes and give it to me. In this case, the goods are not ready. They are not in a deliverable state. Something is to be done to put the goods in a deliverable state. Some activity is to be done to put the goods in a deliverable state. Now, that activity which is to be done to put the goods in a deliverable state, unless that activity is done and the buyer is informed, unless that time, property does not pass to the buyer. The property does not pass to the buyer. So, unless and until the mangoes are actually plucked, and the buyer is informed that yes, your mangoes are plucked, unless that time the responsibility is with the seller. This is the difference between goods in a deliverable state and goods in not in a deliverable state. That is the difference between these two. Ram Udgar says use Hindi and English mix. Ram Udgar, I cannot use Hindi because there are a lot of South Indian students and a lot of students who do not understand Hindi at all. Therefore, I am forced to use English language. So, yes, I have to use English language only. So, goods which are not in a deliverable state, their ownership is passed only when those goods are in a deliverable state and that activity which is required to be done is done. Now, sometimes guys, goods are in a deliverable state, but something is to be done to ascertain their price. Their price is not ascertained. What should be their price? This is not ascertained. Sometimes this also happens. They are in a deliverable state, but the price is not ascertained. So I'll give you an example. I go to a bookshop and I have a list of 100 titles which I want to purchase from that bookshop. That bookshop has thousands and thousands of books. I have a list of 100 books which I want to purchase. I tell the shopkeeper, okay shopkeeper, from this 10,000 books, please extract these 100 titles. Shopkeeper says, okay, all the titles are ready with me. I'll just extract them. And I ask him, what is the price? The shopkeeper tells me, you have to wait for the price. Price cannot be ascertained as of now. So in this case, when the sale contract has been made between me and the shopkeeper, but the price is yet to be ascertained, in this case also, property does not pass until price is ascertained. Until price is ascertained, the ownership is not passed to the buyer. It will be seller's responsibility. If fire breaks out in that particular shop and all the titles are destroyed, it will be buyer's responsibility. So therefore, these are the three situations where responsibility is transferred, either at the time of making the contract, in first case at the time of making the contract, in second and third case later on when that condition is fulfilled or when the price is ascertained. Now in case of transfer of ownership in case of unascertained goods. What happens in case of unascertained goods? How is the transfer of ownership happens in case of unascertained good? That is what we are going to understand, guys. Again, in case of unascertained goods, unless and until the goods are ascertained, two conditions are required to be satisfied to pass on the risk. Goods should be ascertained and unconditional apportionment should be done. Unconditional apportionment means those goods should be segregated from the plethora of goods which are kept over there. I'll give you a simple example. I go to a shop and I ask the shopkeeper to sell me Lux soap. I did not tell him what kind of Lux soap do I want. He himself puts out a Lux, some of the variant of Lux, and he gives it to me. This is a sale of unascertained goods. In this case, guys, unless and until ascertainment is done, ascertainment means which Lux is to be given. So the shopkeeper is giving you a rose, Lux rose, that is ascertainment. Then unconditional apportionment should also be done. Unconditional apportionment means the Lux soap, the rose variant of Lux soap should be given to me. It should be kept in my bag. It should be kept in my bag. Unless and until these two exercises happen, in case of unascertained goods, the risk is not transferred, because unascertained goods are goods which are not ascertained or future goods. So to pass on the risk, you mandatorily have to pass on the ascertainment of that good. That good should be ascertained that yes, I want to sell the rose version of Lux to you. First, ascertainment should happen. Secondly, unconditional appropriation should happen, which means that from the bulk of soaps which are kept in the shelf, the soap should be made out and should be actually handed over to the buyer, or it should be kept separately that this soap is belonging to that particular buyer. So unconditional appropriation should also happen. It should be kept aside that this soap is for that particular buyer. Only in that situation the transfer of ownership happens in case of unascertained goods. So this was the specific principle on transfer of ownership of unascertained goods. Okay, question number 1. Write the answer in the register which is in front of you. Doctrine of caveat emptor is not applicable: A, when the goods are of mass consumption; B, in case of perishable goods; C, when the seller is well established and a known person; D, when the buyer has relied upon skill and judgment of the seller. Choose the correct answer and write it on the register. Don't show your registers to everyone. Do not show your registers to everyone. A reference can be made to Indian Contract Act, Companies Act, Transfer of Immovable Property Act, or D, Consumer Protection Act. Choose the correct answer and write it on the register. Question number 3. Which one of the following is not considered as goods? A, antiques; B, jubilee coins; C, current notes, current coins; D, none. Choose the correct answer. Next, a contract for sale of future goods is A, sale; B, agreement to sell; C, void; D, hire purchase contract. Yogesh Kanojia, why is your camera not open? Proctor is going to ask you why is your camera not open. Yogesh Kanojia, open your camera. In your examination, guys, Proctor is going to ask you if your camera is not open, then he is going to ask you, and you have to keep your camera open at all times during examination. Please remember this. Okay. This is question number 5. Question number 6. Goods are at the risk of the party who has the delivery, ownership, custody, dealership. Paper so difficult that you are looking very tensed. Is the paper very difficult?
No.
No, it is not difficult. Okay. Question number 7. Seller means a person who sells or agrees to sell, who bears the authority to sell, or who only agrees to sell the goods, or who is desirous of selling? What do you mean by a seller? D. Eighth, mercantile agent means the person A who sells the goods or consigns for the purpose of sell, or buys the goods or raise money on security of goods. B who only sells or purchases. C who only consigns goods. D who only transfer goods. Who is a mercantile agent? Next is the date of enforceability of Sales of Goods Act 1930. What is the date of enforceability of this act?
A. 1st January.
Anil Patel, 1st January. You don't have to say the answers in the group, Anil Patel. You have to write it on your registered. Anil Patel, where are you from?
Gujarat, sir.
Oh, Gujarati bhai, કેમ છો? મજામાં?
બસ સર કમ્પ્લીટ. તમે કેમ છો?
हाँ, મજામાં. बस इससे ज्यादा नहीं आती, इससे ज्यादा मत बोलना. Okay, question number 10. Mercantile agent is having an authority to. What is the authority of mercantile agent? Mercantile agent is having an authority to A. Sell or consign the goods. B. Raise money on security of goods. C. Sells or buys goods. D. Any of the above. You have to tell what is the authority of mercantile agent. What is the authority of mercantile agent? What can mercantile agent do? A, B, C, D. Okay, next. Under which circumstance unpaid seller loses his right of lien? Loses his right of lien. Under what circumstance? A. By estoppel. B. Where seller waived off the right of lien. C. Where the buyer or agent lawfully obtains the possession of the goods. D. Any of the above. Pick the correct answer.
Sir, any of the above or all of the above? Any of the above में तो कुछ भी है.
नहीं, any of the above means कोई भी सिचुएशन होगी तो राइट टू लीन लूज हो जाएगा. कोई भी एक सिचुएशन होगी, अलग अलग सिचुएशन. ऑल ऑफ द अबव होगा. ऑल ऑफ द अबव का मतलब होगा
हाँ, कोई
सब
इसमें
में
तो फिर कोई भी आ
सारी
जाएगा. अगर any of the above में टिक कर दिया तो मतलब कोई सही है any of the above.
कोई भी. अगर स्टॉपल होगा तो भी लूज हो जाएगा, राइट. अगर सेलर वेव ऑफ करता है तो
अच्छा,
भी लूज
वैसे.
होगा, राइट. अगर बायर ऑब्टेन कर लेता है तो भी लूज हो जाएगा, राइट. सो एनी ऑफ द अबव का मतलब ये है. Okay, question number 12. Auction sale is complete on the delivery, payment of price, fall of hammer, none of the above. When will the auction sale complete? Next, a contract of sale of goods which provide that property would pass to the buyer on full payment of price and execution of sale deed is known as A. Sale, B. Agreement to sell, C. Hire purchase, D. Sale of approval. Question 14. The property in good means the A. Possession of goods, B. Custody of goods, C. Ownership of goods, D. Both A and B. Next, under SOGA, which of the following is implied warranty? 1. Warranty of quiet possession. 2nd, warranty of freedom from encumbrances. 3rd, warranty of title. 4th, warranty as to wholesomeness. A options are A 1 and 2, B 1 and 3, C 2 and 4, D 3 and 4. So these are the options. Don't confuse, these are not the options. These are not the options. This is part of the question. These are the options. A, B, C, D. योगेश टेस्ट के बाद मैं सेंड कर दूंगा जो क्वेश्चंस हैं वो ग्रुप में. ओके, क्वेश्चन नंबर 16. Which of the following is right of an unpaid seller? Right to resale, right to stop goods in transit, right of lien, right to demand back the goods. A 2 3 4, B 1 2 3, C 1 3 4, D 1 2 3 4. These are the options, okay? These are the options. These are not the options. These are part of the question. These are not the options. Rights of an unpaid seller. Ravi Thakur, please open your camera. I can ask anyone randomly to open their cameras. Ravi Thakur, open your camera. Junaid, open your camera. Next, for the terms not defined, oh, this is a repetition. Okay, you got one bonus, guys. A repetition of question number 1. So the terms not defined in Sales of Goods Act, reference is made to Indian Contract Act, B Companies Act, C Transfer of Immovable Property Act, or Consumer Protection Act. Same question. Question number 1, question number 17 is the same. Okay, question number 18. The term goods in the Sales of Goods Act means movable goods other than money, actionable claim, all movable goods only, tangible consumable goods, or tangible goods. So question number 18 is goods is what are goods?
सर ये क्लास बाद में देख सकता हूँ क्या कहीं पे? YouTube
बिल्कुल
वगैरह
देख
पे?
सकते हैं, YouTube चैनल पे देखिएगा, ब्राइट विजन
Yes, sir,
एकेडमी के
तो कब
YouTube
तक-
चैनल पे.
तो कब तक अपलोड हो जाएंगे सर ये?
ये कल तक अपलोड हो जाएंगे.
थैंक यू।
लेट क्यों आए हैं? कहीं बिजी थे?
हाँ सर थोड़ा सा बिजी था मैं।
CMA फाउंडेशन से भी ज्यादा बिजी चीज है आजकल आपकी लाइफ में, बड़ी खूबसूरत होंगी आपकी बिजी चीज।
नहीं सर, सॉरी सर, वो था सर, कुछ काम इमरजेंसी आ गया।
देखो वो अगर वो बिजीनेस है तो फिर भी ठीक है, बट उसके अलावा और कोई
हाँ,
बिजीनेस
सर।
CMA फाउंडेशन के ऊपर तो वैलिड नहीं है।
हाँ सर, मैं अच्छे से समझ रहा हूँ। कल वो सर परसों मैंने क्लास इकोनॉमिक्स का करा था, और
हाँ।
सर आज एकदम बिल्कुल ध्यान से उतर गया, और मैं मार्केट चले गया तो इसलिए नहीं कर पाया।
ओके ओके
अभी आया हूँ तो मैं तो ज्वाइन किया हूँ, तो इसलिए मैं सोचा पहले कंफर्म कर लूँ आपसे पूछ।
ओके ओके। क्वेश्चन नंबर 19। Out of the following, dash is an instance of constructive delivery of goods. A. Transfer of bill of lading. B. Atonement by a person in possession of the goods. C. Handing over the key of warehouse to the buyer. D. Actual delivery of goods to the buyer. Constructive delivery. There are two kinds of delivery. One is the actual delivery, second is the constructive or implied delivery. Okay, and the last question is, good the acquisition of which is contingent upon some events happening or non-happening will be treated as, easiest question. So this finishes our test, and now guys, just give yourself marks, honestly give yourself marks, okay? Please remember that this is not your final examination. So if you show me or you show Bright Vision Academy that you have scored 20 marks, it will not be of any use to you or me. Only if you tell us your real marks, whatever you have obtained in this test, only then we, our own faculty, our whole team can help you on developing your basics. We can tell you steps on how to improve yourself. Only when you tell us your real marks, only when you tell us your real problems, then we will be able to explain you the causes for it and the treatment for it. But if you show us your incorrect marks, so if you have scored 8 marks and you are telling me and the entire team of Bright Vision Academy that you have scored 18 marks, guys, it will not hamper me, it will not hamper my team, it will only hamper you. So you should not tell your incorrect marks. Honestly, absolutely honestly, give yourself 1 mark on each right answer and 0 marks on every incorrect answer. Okay, be very, very honest with yourself. So this is the answer key. These are the answers. Give yourself 1 for the correct answer and 0 for the incorrect answer.